Trigger warning for dubious consent, child emotional abuse, bondage, marking, and just general violence.
It's called smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut and unsut.
How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good.
My uterus is so upset.
It is.
With me.
Mm-hmm. Jessica do you want to tell the people what happened?
I took out one IUD and replaced it with another
She's not doing
IUD.
so great, guys.
I didn't do it. My doctor removed one IUD.
We're not advocating for anyone to remove their own IUD.
And replaced it with another IUD.
These actions were performed by a professional.
Yeah,
Yes.
But that happened yesterday morning. And so my body is discovering what it is to be without hormones.
Oh, geez.
And so
this is going to be a passionate episode.
I am cramping and I am very emotional.
Is that true? You didn't mention it.
I
didn't
very
realize
emotional. It's going to be really interesting because I'm going to visit family in like 2 days.
Oh, God.
And I was like, Mom, I don't know what version of me will be showing up.
I kind of can't wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I really am. I'm curious. Like, a part of me is curious. Part of me is concerned.
Terrified? Yeah.
And I know that Keenan is also battening down the hatches a little bit. Like, I think he was doing research into it because he's sweet and he's concerned.
He's going to tiptoe
But also,
around
like,
you.
But I think he's
afraid.
like trying to gather information just in case.
Like a storm's coming, we need to prepare.
Yeah, like I need to know what might be happening inside of her body.
Is there any other, like, with reading all these things that you're reading and now with your hormones, are you feeling even more like passionate maybe or something like that?
Well, it's a little hard to say because it's only been a day and a half. Mm-hmm. I will say I've never been so aware of my vagina as I have been this last day.
Welcome to Femmes Reading Filth. I'm Emilie.
I'm Jess.
I'm Sean, the guest.
Yay!
I always like to really throw in the welcome at like a really good part of our conversation.
I think you do it to get me to shut the fuck up most of the time.
No, because I've done it to myself too. Because the last 3 episodes have been me being like, "What city is sexy? I think it's this," and both of you going, "Nope," and I go, "Okay, well then, welcome to Femmes Reading Filth." I know what I'm doing.
And we didn't shut down the bit. We just disagreed with your take.
Yeah.
I want to make that clear.
That's not true. You totally shut it down.
No, we just didn't. We disagreed.
So, Sean,
yes.
What is the topic of today's episode?
It is a reverse harem.
Yes.
And I didn't look it up. I stuck by it. I have no idea what it is.
Can you give me your best guess?
So you said something one of you said something about threesomes last time. So I'm guessing it's something like something in that arena of like more than one partner.
Yeah.
It's like a cousin of it.
Yeah.
As long as it's not actual cousins.
I mean,
sometimes
it depends.
No,
okay,
no kink shaming here.
That is my.
No kink
I'm not kink shaming. I'm asking.
No, but you're within the realm of what it is.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Emilie, do you want to? I assume you looked it up.
Of course I did. A reverse harem is categorized as 3 or more males and 1 female.
Oh.
So it has to be 3 or more. So if it's 2 males and a female, it's just a threesome.
Or a triad.
Or a triad.
Oh,
and that's that's so boring.
Sure,
We're talking
totally.
about 4 people.
But why is it called reverse harem?
Well, do you know what a harem is?
No.
Well, whenever I think of it, I think of haram, which so I went to. Have you ever heard the term haram?
No.
So I went to my college, University of Michigan, Dearborn. Shout out UMD. Dearborn has the biggest population, or the second biggest population of Arab American immigrants.
Yep.
And so I learned a lot about Islam and culture when I was going there. And one of the things would be haram, which means it's not you're being like dirty, or it's not part of the religion, or like your grandma would flinch. So like someone would eat pork and as a joke someone would go haram, Haram.
Oh,
That's interesting because now, so I'm looking it up, and it is what I thought it was. It says in parentheses, in former times, a harem or haram was the separate part of a Muslim household reserved for wives, concubines, and female servants.
Okay.
So it's one guy, multiple wives.
Gotcha.
So I'm wondering if nowadays it's like
It's like slang.
it's like in the Mormons like polygamy. Like that's not, they don't do that
They don't
anymore.
call it a harem
So
as well. Yeah.
because it makes me think of like Aladdin or something. Because when I think harem pants remind me of genie pants. So I know it's of that, like it originated from that culture.
I feel
Yeah.
like I've heard about it in reference to a group of women before. It was like we have our like a harem,
harem of
A
girls.
harem.
a
Yeah.
harem of women, but I never necessarily understood where it came from.
So a reverse harem.
That makes sense.
Is
A lot of
a
men.
gender bend harem.
Gender-bent harem.
Oh, they all come from the same root, you guys. They all come from the same root.
Welcome to Word Talk with
Yeah.
Jess and Em.
It's from ancient Hebrew.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that doesn't.
That's nice.
That's so nice.
But yes, reverse harem is, and I always found the term a little bit sexist, I guess might be the term, because why do we need to specify,
That
oh,
it's
it's a
a-
reverse
Yeah,
harem?
it could have its own name.
Why can't a woman with multiple guys just also be a harem?
Yeah.
Well,
Or
I guess
if you
it's also
really-
for reading preference, at least in this.
I guess also if you
reading
wanted to
preference.
separate
Yeah.
it, just give it its own word. It really does
Give it
make
its
it
own
seem
word.
like it's a special harem.
A gaggle.
A gaggle.
A gaggle of guys.
Gaggle of guys.
This is a gaggle
A
romance.
murder of men.
A murder. A suite of men. We're gonna by the end of this episode, we're gonna find a new term for it.
Okay, but this
A
is.
vow.
Plethora of penis.
But now I know.
That's it. That's
There
it.
is a plethora of
A plethora
penises.
of peni. A
Plethora.
peni. Plethora of peni.
Peni is terrible. I don't like
No, we're not gonna. Penis.
Plural.
that. Penis.
I think penis is the plural of penis.
Penises.
Or is it peni?
Penises.
So, Sean, why did you land on reverse harem?
So I had a list, and it was the one that you all kind of giggled about. So I picked it.
Honestly, I respect it.
Thank you.
I respect that as a way of picking.
And also, I will say the other stuff that we had in here,
I probably, you want to say it again just for the listeners because it might not be
the
in that.
list. Yeah. So some of the ones that I had on here were like arranged marriage, hidden identity, fake dating, and fluff. Like all of those were kind of covered in the ones we just did. And I was like, I feel like if we went with it again, we'd be getting likely more of the same. Or at least in the same kind of realm as like the one that you did. So I figured this, and again, I didn't understand what shame fucking was, and I was kind of afraid to go down that route. But now that I know it's just, one night stands, absolutely.
Not necessarily,
But you
Sean.
know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Not necessarily.
It
But
could be
that's-
someone you go back to
Just
for
because,
years. And
absolutely. I'm just saying, it's not as outrageous as it seemed in title.
Sean, I
Yeah.
need you to take note of the lost look in Emily's
Oh.
eyes.
I was trying to let her get past
the
it.
eye twitch.
I was trying to help her past it. But yeah, this was
Nope.
one I knew nothing about. It seems spicy from how you guys have talked about it in the past. And I was like, let's get into it. Let's do it.
Jess, should we talk about our histories with reverse harems?
Sure. I did not really know about it as a term until I started reading romance novels because for fanfic, the tagging system is such that if it's a woman and multiple guys, or really any combination of humans fucking each other, it will just be either their names with just slashes between all of them, or FMMMMM into infinity. And so it wasn't until I and there's some other terms that I'll get into when I start talking about my actual fic. And it wasn't until I started reading romance novels, and I think, because Emily and I talked a little bit before this, I think the one that she picked is the first reverse harem that I remember reading and enjoying.
Oh, okay.
I think this is also the first reverse harem that I've read and really enjoyed.
Because you've read a few, but
Yes.
they've not hit the spot for you.
No. So what happened with me in reverse harems is that I read a book once. It was not a Kindle Unlimited. I believe it's called SWAT. Actually, let me look it up really quick.
Here, while you're looking this up, I have a question.
Yes.
So, because reverse harem seems almost like a technical term for the situation, when does do the characters call it that in the book? Like, how do you know
No.
it's a reverse harem?
It's it's tagged as such, or
In a Kindle Unlimited, it'll say reverse harem.
No, but usually like the description will be something
or the
like,
reviews. Something will say it's, or like, yeah, if you look at a Kindle Unlimited description, it'll say the synopsis, and
Okay.
usually at the bottom if there is some sort of trigger warning needed, it will say like trigger warning not suitable for people under 18, like, or this is a reverse harem standalone, or like this is a reverse harem series. Yeah. It was SWAC, sealed with a kiss.
Okay.
Sealed with a kiss.
But also the Kindle Unlimited description will be something like, Mary Beth just moved back to her small town and she's intrigued by the hardware store owner, Jeff, and his cousin,
and two brothers,
Brian, and
their best friend, Lars.
And so you can just infer it.
They don't usually, because of what it is.
They're going to say all the names.
I was more curious, like, how that name became more of, like, a known thing. Because, again, like, when I've read stuff where people have had, like, orgies or foursomes, it's, like, it's usually not referred to as that. Mm-hmm. So that's, and when you were saying that in fanfic, it's not even tagged as that usually. So that's why I was interested as to how that became more mainstream.
I would say orgy is more, like, sexual, whereas reverse harem is more relationship.
Oh.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I assumed it was just like full on threesome.
So you might be reading a book and it might have an orgy scene in it. Reverse harem is the relationships between these people.
Okay.
And also they bang.
Okay. But it's more about the polygamy aspect.
Yes.
Polyamory.
Polyamory.
Yeah,
yes. Sorry.
sorry.
I didn't mean to say. We were talking earlier about
polygamy earlier.
No,
but then you think of like what we do in the shadows. How he used to have 50 wives.
Yes, that's what I was thinking about this whole time.
Yes, that's what a harem is. He had a harem.
Yes. Okay. So it's not just about a sexual act; it's about the relationship.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So I read Sealed with a Kiss, and it was marketed to me as like a very like spicy, like she's an archaeologist and this guy is a fellow archaeologist, but she also has 2 hot guards with her. And so I didn't even see the term reverse harem. I just was like, oh, whatever, blah blah, and I read it, and I remember texting Jess, being like, she keeps having sex. She just like, isn't she tired? Like the chafing alone, and you're just like, dude, it's a reverse harem. And I was like, what does that even mean? And you're like, dude, and like at the end of that book, like since it's a relationship, she ends up with all of them, and I was like, oh, I hate this. And no shade to anyone out there who is in a throuple, or like who has a real life reverse harem. I don't know. But like I just couldn't wrap my head around that.
And that, I would say, is one more key to the reverse harem trope, is that they end up together as a group.
A unit.
Yes.
That's very
They all
key
work
as well.
together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got really mad, and then I've kept trying them, because there is another series that is a companion series to Zodiac Academy, which we all know I love. And I like it, but mostly because it's like the Zodiac Academy world. And I actually haven't finished it because I'm so annoyed that it's a reverse harem. So this is the first book that I've read.
So what are the things about reverse harems that have turned you off?
We've talked about this too before, and I keep trying to figure it out because I'm just so complex that it's the thing that there's always going to be a conflict. Usually in a reverse harem, there's always someone who's like, this doesn't seem right, I don't know, and then everyone just magically is okay with it, and then everyone seems happy. That's not real to me.
So you need more like communication. You need more like negotiation.
I need more negotiation. I need more communication. And I'm just a big shipper. Like I like a OTP.
A one-to-one.
Yeah.
I like a one-to-one. I love a good fated mates type of thing. I love a soulmate thing. I think I'm just a big ol' romantic though.
Right.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I believe in soulmates, but I do think there's like one kind of almost perfect person out there for everyone. If you end up with them, it doesn't mean you're not going to not be happy if you're not with them.
Yeah.
But you could still find someone that's
What a romantic.
great. Yeah, I'm pretty romantic.
Look at you.
That's why I'm so picky on the dating apps.
But I agree with you. I think that's one of the things that has turned me off to those types of stories as well, is because at a certain point you hit a certain number of pairings and I have trouble following and caring.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I don't care as much. And then
It's harder to get invested, I
the
imagine.
sex scenes are really like fun and exciting, but then it gets to a point where I'm like, this is too much. Like this is
The chafing.
there should
She's
be
tired.
Wouldn't she needs some lotion. She's
definitely gonna have a UTI.
She needs a bath. Yes.
Yes.
And then in some books, not the one I am reading, but there have been others where I'm like, wouldn't she get pregnant by now? Or like,
Oh yeah.
With the amount
That
of
IUD
unprotected
is fighting for its life.
The IUD is working in overtime.
Yep.
So that's usually my thing. But so I've had a tricky relationship with
Reverse harem.
reverse harems,
Reverse harems.
much to Jessica's amusement.
It's
I'd say.
so fucking funny to me. just because you had already read so many things, and then you came to me with this, and you were so scandalized. But also,
Were you scandalized or just like, no, thank you?
I think I was scandalized because she was having. Like in that book,
You were
Sealed with a Kiss,
concerned.
I was concerned for her. And there's like a part where she has like sex on a plane, and then they land in Chernobyl, of course, and then then they're in Chernobyl, and they only have an hour because then the radiation's going to get to them.
and they have sex.
And so she has sex with another guy in a different apartment, and I was like, but you probably still are, tender from an hour ago,
And the radiation.
the radiation
I
is
think
probably
that's
going
also
to
a
get
perfect
on this
example
guy's penis.
of like having a hard time putting yourself in that situation. Like, not that you need to be in the situation every time you read a book, but in that situation, I also would be thinking like, I'm probably tired, man.
Yes. I think it's to like really like connect with a book. You wanna be able to see yourself
Yeah,
as the main character sometimes,
Connect
or like
in some way.
Yeah, you want to connect in some way, and that was just something I could not connect with.
No.
Yeah. Well, do you want to get into your story?
Yeah. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
So when you first picked this, and I giggled, I was like, oh, I'm finally gonna read Den of Vipers.
Oh.
And I did read it, and I immediately within the first, I want to say like 10%. I said, I can't do this.
Tell Sean why Den of Vipers got that reaction from me.
It's really dark and
Okay.
And it's one of the ones on Book Talk that people
it's
like.
big on Book
you
Talk.
You should read Den of Vipers.
It's violent. It's not like I've read worse violent wise. But it was just to a point where I'm like, I don't know if I would have fun talking about this one.
That's fair.
So much like story wise, like sex scene wise, I think it'd be fine. But of course, me being the stubborn person I am, I was like, I gotta finish it.
But
just
I would say, Sean, it is legendary amongst Book Talk as the reverse harem example.
Okay.
Yeah, like when people are reading things, it's like I'm either reading Akatar or like Den of Vipers or like probably Crescent City now. But
I've definitely seen I've seen Crescent City on Book Talk for me.
you've got to read it. So I did look up popular or like well-known reverse harems because that's not like usually when I see something on Book Talk, I just kind of read it and don't really catalog it because I'm like, I'm probably not going to read it. And then I saw this one and I remembered seeing the cover of it, and it's called Lilac by B.B. Reid. It's 556 pages, and it came out in December 5th, 2020. And you've probably seen the cover of it. It's like a pink and purpley tie-dye,
Like a watercolor.
watercolory type
I'm gonna
of
look it up right now.
cover. The main female character is Braxton Fawn, and she plays guitar. And the main male characters are named Houston, Lorne, and Jericho. And they are members of the very famous rock band Bound.
Okay.
So it starts out with the prologue that the guitarist for Bound has overdosed and died.
Oh shit.
And it's like a press release, and we're like, oh boy. And then it goes to chapter 1. It's from Braxton's point of view, and she is waiting in a record label office because I don't ever think they said it was her exact agent, but it's like someone, she's like friends with this agent.
She's like put up for an audition.
Yes.
Okay.
And the agent picked her to like bring in as the new guitarist because Bound is about to start their newest world tour. It's going to be their last tour. And she goes in, and immediately it's an enemies to lover, basically.
Okay. All three of them?
All three of them were like, fuck no. Like they didn't want a girl, and they didn't want to like pick. They wanted to be able to pick themselves.
Yeah.
So
Also, their friend just died.
also not really. They actually, she also says that the band themselves have not released any like statements of sadness or like.
Some people grieve privately.
That's true, and that's what she goes. Maybe they're grieving privately, whatever, but they don't seem to. That seems to be like a no-go with them.
Okay.
The band hates her. Oh, the label told her that like this is your chance, so you're gonna do it. And she's like, yeah, I'd be stupid not to. She signs the contract, and the girl who she talks with, the agent lady, whose name I didn't write down, sorry, I don't remember it, was like, hey, fix them. They're all fighting. They all hate each other. Can you keep them together? And she's like, we'll see.
Oh my God.
And then starts out, it's a point of view. So
I
all
love
of the
those.
band members
Have their own
and
chapters.
Braxton have their own chapters. We hear from each of them, and they're all warm for her form. They're like, oh, I'm so angry, but her red hair and her curvaceous body
What
and
color are her eyes?
Oh, no, I don't write that down. I think they're green.
We'll never know, will we?
Classic.
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 Little red hair.
Red hair, green eyes.
Bright eyes. What is this, Lily Potter? Mm-hmm. They start out with, it's 3 months till the tour, so they have to start rehearsing with her, and they're very hard on her, especially Houston, who is the lead singer. Lauren is the bassist, and Jericho, who goes by Rich with his friends, is the drummer. Houston's like really angry, and he's kind of the leader.
That Jericho's nickname is Rich.
Well, if you look at the spelling, it's Gericho.
Oh, that makes
Jericho.
sense. That makes sense.
So Jericho. And
Jericho.
Jericho's like the nice one.
That makes so much more sense seeing it spelled out, but just in saying it, Jericho. Oh, my nickname's Rich.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Oh, call me Rich, but it's Jericho.
It's Jericho.
He's kind of the nice one. Like, he's still not like gung ho about it, but he just wants to keep the peace. Lauren is he came up from money, but he hates his dad, and he's like really into Braxton, Brax, as her friends call her, and he calls dibs on her, which makes the other two be like, fuck you, because they're also like, I need to have sex with her. And Houston just like hates the world, hates everyone.
Sure.
So Houston's very mean to her, blah, 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 but then the tour starts, she's incredible, and they're like, this is amazing, and then they have to live on a tour bus because the first leg of the journey is America, and then the second leg is Europe. It's like 2 European legs, I want to say.
Sure.
So, but also in the last episode, we did say let's keep a tally for sex scenes. I don't know if you did that.
I did not, but I can do it really
You could do it while I talk.
Yeah.
So sexy sex scenes, I have at 10. Because there are some where it's like, they pushed her up against the bus and they made out. Like, I didn't really count that.
For sure.
So there's a part where the first big one is Houston on the bus basically attacks her face, and they start hardcore making out. He like puts her up on the table. It's like a really nice tour bus. Like, it's a,
I figured, yeah.
it's like better than my apartment probably tour bus. And he's like, do you want to come for me? And he like starts fingering her on the bus, and she lets out this revelation that she is a sex addict.
Oh.
And so all the guys have kind of gotten very close to her. They've probably had stolen kisses here or there. And the other two, Lauren and Jericho, are like listening in when this happens.
Oh my
so
God.
she makes this revelation. She looks around. Everyone's looking at her. She's like, oh my God.
While being fingered?
When she says, she like backs away. He starts fingering her. She backs away. She's like, I can't. I'm a sex addict. And then we learn a little bit more about her because it's kind of like peppered in her background. She had a very religious upbringing, and she left at 18 from Faithful, California, which is it's a town of like 900 very devout
Religious
people, and she moved to LA, and she is 22 in this book.
Okay.
The band members are around like 26, 27. The fighting of the band ends up getting worse, and she imposes a ban, like a sex ban. Because before that, number 2 happens, which is Jericho gets a blowjob from her. And, I'm sorry, I'm going out of order. The first one before that, Houston pushes her up against a bus and they have sex.
Okay, sure.
After she has said she is a sex addict.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a few weeks later, he's like, I just got to do it. So they do it, and he tells the band members, because now he's like, well, now she's ruined for you. Because you guys don't want what I've had. Jericho is like, absolutely not. Follows her on the bus because she feels like sad that he like used her. She ends up giving him a blowjob, and then they have a very intense sex scene. And it's like implied because he's the nicest one of the group. He's like, it's because no one knows the real me. And he gets very dominant and like aggressive in the bedroom, like in a good way.
I figured.
So, like, if I had to pick one of them, it'd probably be Jericho. But anyways, so after that, everyone gets really mad, and she imposes a sex ban. And it's like, no one can talk to me unless it's about the music. And the band gets really upset about it. And so that's when they start to work together to try and get Braxton to talk to them again, because they're really missing her a lot. So
For sure.
The end of the first leg is a nigh. And they go to New York. And they all start apologizing to her. And she's like, maybe we could all be friends. And she's like, hey, you should come find me in Central Park. Because she's like, I miss them, blah, blah, blah. They find her. And then they end up all having public sex in Central Park.
As a group?
It's more Lauren. Jericho uses her mouth.
Okay.
And Houston kind of just watches and has a good time.
Cool.
She finally gives in and is like, cool, I'll be everyone's girlfriend.
Okay.
And they're like, yeah, because you seem like an all or nothing kind of gal. And by this point, like they're still, the band is still kind of butting heads with each other, but they used to be like best friends. That's how they formed this band. So they're getting back to their roots, and she's kind of bringing them together. And then I call it number 5, the Big Bang happens, where she decides to be everyone's girlfriend. They're on the tour bus. They pin her to the bed, and they all have their merry way with her.
Oh my.
I was pretty proud of myself for calling it the Big Bang. By this point, I made a note that says she's always describing smells and tastes.
Okay.
She's like, I looked at him and like the taste of cherries hit my tongue. And it was just like, I was just like, oh, maybe this is like a quirky character trait. But it's not. She is a chromesthesia.
We're talking about like synesthesia, where you can like taste colors. And
Yes. So
Yeah.
chromesthesia.
Chromesthesia.
Yeah, where you can perceive sound through color, and you can also taste. She tastes her emotions.
Interesting.
So like lust is usually a vanilla cherry type of thing,
Okay.
I guess. She has like different tastes for all of them. Like when she sees someone, and later on in the book, she's like, I don't know how I'm feeling without the taste in my mouth. Like I don't
Interesting.
understand what my feeling is now because of this. That we kind of like come to that. We're like, cool, great. They're finishing the first leg of their tour. Something happens. And she freaks out, and she's like, I got to go back to Faithful. We got to cancel one of the tours, or one of the dates. They're all like, yeah, okay, sure. And they hop on a plane. And this is where I started getting really annoyed with her, because she's just like doing shit, and she's like, you don't have to come. They're like, yeah, we're all your boyfriends, of course we're gonna come. And then she never says anything to them. And as a reader, I'm like, well, I need someone to explain this to me. Like, I'm annoyed. So we go to Faithful, and we know that she has a strained relationship with her parents, but she has a younger sister that she still talks to. And we go into a hospital. We're from the boys' perspective. She comes out, she's like, we can go. And they're like, no, like, we're staying here. Like, obviously. They go to church the next morning. They see her family in the front row. Church ends. The family stands up. Her little sister turns around, and they see that she is like 8 months pregnant.
Holy
and her little
shit.
sister is 13.
Nope.
So she had a night of passion with her then boyfriend, and her parents, being the devout religious people they were, made her get married.
Jesus.
And Braxton has this very like intimate conversation with her boyfriends, being like, she wanted to be a doctor, and now like her life is ruined because my parents like wouldn't, like they're making her do this, da 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 da. So she's like, it is what it is. And they're like, well, that's not okay. And she's like, this is what I like left. And they're like, oh, this is why you think you're a sex addict, because like this whole
You like
town,
sex.
like you like sex, and this very devout religious town like made you think that. She's like, well, I totally am. And it's like this kind of brainwashing thing that she went through. And throughout the book, she kind of like gets over that, but
That's so cool.
it's frustrating.
She has a lot of religious trauma, shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's frustrating as a reader who like knows that that's not the case, and I'm like, I just want you to be okay. So by this point, this is like maybe halfway through the book.
Damn.
So all this stuff has already happened.
Okay.
Brax, we find out more about the tasting the emotions. They have a month in between their legs of the concerts, and they're like, come live with us in Portland. They own a house together in Portland. That's where they're from. She's like, yeah, totally. And she's having a great old time. More random. I put this as number 6, random sex scenes, because there's like 3 in a row.
For sure.
They're kind of like all together, but there is one that is, I call it Crossing Swords in Portland. Okay, this is going to be a thing. We might have to cut this out, but when I think of a threesome, and I've never done one before, I've seen in porn where don't listen to this, Mom, where there's 2 guys and 1 girl,
Yep.
and a guy is underneath and the girl is sandwiched between them,
Yep.
and one is in the back door hole and one is in the front door hole.
You can say
Okay, sorry.
asshole and vagina.
Yeah.
I didn't
You
know
really
how.
can.
I don't know like what we're saying and whatnot. One is in her butt and one is in the vagina.
Okay.
Yep.
That is not the case in this one. They both go into hole number 1, which as a reader made me cringe.
I'm sorry. It's really important that you say not
Vagina?
They both go
vagina or asshole.
vagina.
Okay.
They
both go
fit
vagina.
into her
With
vagina.
no preparation at all.
They so
just kinda-
she said multiple. Well, she has been having sex with 3 guys like almost every day. So
But I don't understand how
she's
that
used
makes
to
you equipped
something up there.
for
But
2 penises.
Rich is quite big. Rich is the biggest one, as she says over and over again. And then there's Lube. And so they both go, I don't like that. That's not something I like. That upset me. There's another perfectly good hole right there.
Why did it upset you?
Because she's like, it's so painful. Like, and they're
Yeah.
like, it's going to feel good. I was like, is it? Is that going to feel good?
I don't think it would
She
feel
never does
good.
it again. I don't think she liked
Yeah.
it. But I mean, she was like, I'm going to try it and da-da-da. And then she talks about how they're both basically, like, they're not, since they're all together, they're not wearing condoms. So
Yeah.
both of the boys they're basically like having sex with each other while in her because they're
Yeah.
both touching
Their
each other.
penises are touching.
Yeah.
each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she's like, this is like more for them. So I'm
It's
just.
not, girl.
I know. So I was just like,
To be honest, though, of the people having fun in that scenario, it probably is the guys. Because I'm trying to imagine
because it's so tight.
Yeah, first of all, the idea of getting 2 penises in there, the logistics alone, like, where are their bodies that
Now-
they can both get in there?
So he's under, like, think of it in the same way of laying down. Like, the guy is
Under and one's
the guy
on
is
top.
on his
Yeah.
back laying
Okay.
up. The girl is on her back
Yeah.
on top of the boy facing up.
Yeah, okay,
The
that
third,
makes sense.
the
Is
third
on
person,
top.
the guy, is on
I-
top facing the girl.
See, my issue is I can completely understand how it would be fun and pleasurable if you had enough lube.
Yes.
Yes,
And
a
enough
big enough vagina.
preparation.
Yes.
You know that gets big because people got to push babies through
People
there. So
gotta
you
push
know
babies
that
out.
dilates.
And
but,
I've seen
like,
some things on the internet, but that sounds like the way it was written. It was not about that. It was about her like enduring some pain, which I am not.
Not for.
It's not
I
fun
think
for
at one
me.
point, I think I probably like breezed past it because she probably at one point is like, and then it became pleasurable. But I don't think I could focus much
And
to my
also,
horror
yeah,
of reverse harems. I'm like,
and also,
I can't.
if they're not
do this.
synchronizing their thrusts, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're just
just
getting
laying there.
tossed
You
around.
have to just hang out.
But you're just
You
getting
can't-
tossed around while this friction's happening inside
Yeah.
it. It honestly sounds like
Yeah.
it'd be way more fun for them overall than for me. Because I think there's like when I think of threesome, when I think of a threesome, I think of everyone having fun together. Like everyone is doing stuff to each other. Like that's
Yeah.
what I imagine.
And I think, and up until that point, like that was what was
Yeah.
happening. And usually in these situations where there's a threesome with 2 of the guys and her, like
Yeah.
that's what's happening.
That just seems painful. And
Which also then right after that, they all like pass out. She opens her eyes. Lauren, who missed the whole thing because he was taking a shower,
What happened, guys?
comes in and he's like, I'm so mad at you guys. Like, I can't believe I missed this. She like crawls over one of them and then starts having sex with Lauren. And I'm like, but you just were talking about how painfully sore you were.
Yeah.
So again, reality check, not here. They're living in bliss. And then she finds out that Rich is actually married.
oh my god.
And she finds the divorce papers and she immediately
Jerry.
leaves. Jericho.
Jericho.
But he's getting divorced. She found the divorce papers.
But like the fact that he didn't even tell her.
I know. I agree. But
So
I'm just
big-
saying.
And they've also had trust issues up until this point.
Gotcha.
So a month passes, and during that time, she tries to get out of the tour. Then she finds out that this is the last tour for Bound. They signed with this record label, and the record label's like not great. It's kind of like a Taylor Swift thing where
Yeah, for
they
sure.
had to fight to get back all their masters. So they're poor. They're poor, and. They and they have to do this tour, and if they don't, they lose like so much money, and they have to stay under contract with this record label until they make back all the money. So it's like once they're done with this tour, like they can be free. And so Braxton finds this out, and she's like, I'll do it. I'll do the tour. So part 2 starts, and they go to Berlin.
This is a long story.
I
is a
know.
long
I'm
story.
and I'm trying to like really. I'm not
Simplify.
gonna like say the end because I
Okay.
don't want to like ruin it, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to go as fast as I can. I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're doing
You're
great.
doing great.
But there's a lot
There's a
that
lot
happens
going
in this. So they go to Berlin, and that's when number 8, club sex in Berlin, happens. Where
Club
they,
sex?
They corner her in a club, and they're like, "We miss you. You should be our girlfriend again." She was like, "I don't think so, guys." But she can't resist their bodies, so they just go into a hallway at a club and have sex.
I'm into that.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not against it. I think one of them was like, I'll be the lookout.
You know what?
It's easy when you have four
I appreciate the practicality.
Yes.
Of,
Me too.
Also, and that's a big thing in this too, because this is like one of the most famous bands in the world. How are you going to have sex in Central Park with no one seeing? It's New York. Someone's
gonna
always
see.
there. So
You know,
it's like, how
this
is this not getting out?
Suspension
Right.
of disbelief in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, much like two large penises fitting in
large
one
peni.
vagina, which
One
I've
vagina.
not gotten over.
Then they start, and then like time progresses. She's like, yeah, I'm kind of back with them, but I'm not really having sex with any of them. We're just like making out a little.
Except in the club.
Except for the one time in the club. And so the
club.
second in the
Club.
club, the second leg ends. They go back to Portland. She finally meets Houston's grandma, who is everyone's like kind of mom figure.
That's so cute.
And they and there has been some veiled references to Lorne being bi, and Rich kind of not caring, but also is probably bi, but they never
Okay.
actually say it. So she's like, well, I can't have sex with you guys because like you need to build up that trust, but like there's nothing wrong with you guys doing it. And so she watches as they have sex in grandma's house. Number 9, male on male in grandma's house.
Yeah.
And oh wait, there's a death threat.
A death threat?
A death threat happens to her, and she's like, oh, it's just Twitter, basically. And I don't want to like give too many details away because I'm worried that in the past few episodes I've synopsized the entire thing,
we want to leave some mystery.
and I do
Yeah.
want to leave some mystery.
Yeah.
But I will say stuff happens, things get resolved, and then the final wham bam thank you ma'am is called the grand finale at the altar, where they all have sex on a church altar.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you where, I'm not going to tell you when, but I'm going to tell you there's a blindfold involved.
Heck
Church
yeah.
sex.
There,
Hot priests.
Hot priest.
hot priest church sex. There is no priest involved, but
I can pretend.
Sean, write that down.
Hot priest.
Hot priest church sex. But yeah, so 10 like full on sexy sex scenes. Somebody gets hit with a bat at some point.
Oh my god.
We don't know who's going to survive. Who knows who it is?
So what's your favorite part of the reverse harem-ness of that story?
Yeah. What made this one good for you?
The actual story itself was good. Like I think sometimes when I read a reverse harem, it's like it's a very it's all about the sex.
Right.
Which is like it's fine. This was a good story without the sex, and the sex added to it.
Okay.
I think there was like some really fun creative like scenes in there sex wise where like the Central Park thing where she turns it into like a scavenger hunt. I'm like, that's pretty exciting. That's cool. Or like yeah, the club thing is like very, I'll watch you guys do it.
Practical. Practical.
That's cool. Doing it against the bus really quick was pretty fun. Again, I didn't do any of this. I just read it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
and then I liked that there was a male on male like scene because I don't tend to read that kind of stuff a lot. Like, and so I appreciated reading it, and it didn't. And I think I said this back in like the intro episode that I usually tend to read straight like sex scene romance books because it's hard for me to like put myself in the position, and I wasn't like taken out of anything. So not that I thought I would, but it's just kind of I
was
think always been in the back of my
new
mind.
thing, yeah.
So I'm like happy. Thoughts and feelings, Sean.
I really liked that. It sounds really cool. The story itself sounds really interesting. I think I have no issues, I think, on like first listen that it's like multiple men and one woman. I think the thing I was thinking about that I think I would have trouble with is always like there's such different people, which I think helps because it's like, oh, okay, I can see why you
It
would
helps
like
you keep them straight.
yeah, and also like there's reasons she would be interested in each of them, but I think it would be like a Gilmore Girls thing where it's like I'm probably gonna pick a favorite. I'm gonna pick a Jessa, Dean, or Logan.
And that's probably why I end up not liking a lot of versions
Yes.
because I'm like I want her to pick the one I like. the
yeah,
most,
exactly.
Like who I would want.
Or
to
I'm
be
just
with.
gonna find myself most invested in that, and then I'm gonna be not as happy when they talk about one of the other relationships.
Yes.
Right.
So I think that would be the main thing that would get in the way of any like reverse harem book. But this story sounds really fun. Like I was very invested in it, so I like
and
it.
it's also so it's an enemies to lover and it's a rock star romance, which is also like a thing. And I don't tend to read those because they always
love
seem a
rock
little
star
like
romances.
They're a little sleazy
they're a little
sometimes.
sleazy. They're a little like cheesy.
Can be.
Yeah, so corny. I don't know. So I tend to stay away from them. But I got out of my comfort zone with this
I really
one.
like that, and I do like a rock star romance, so I think that was also good for me.
Your One Direction
One
roots
Direction.
showing
Oh yeah.
up.
Oh, I was like, is this based on One Direction? But yeah, big fan. Big
and
fan.
full disclosure, I read that book. I think right around when it first came out, and it was one of the first ones that I remember enjoying. That was the reverse harem, and I think a big part of it was that because I feel like a lot of reverse harems don't focus as much on the dynamic between the guys.
I was gonna say I like that.
And I like that it was like, oh no, they're friends and they
Yes.
care about each other.
They have
Yeah,
a
I
really,
really like
intimate
that.
relationship. Mm-hmm. I think
Yeah.
that was cool.
That's one thing. Katie Roberts, who's one of my favorite romance novel authors, she does a lot of tags on her stories, and one of the tags that you'll see on hers is a sword cross guarantee.
Yes.
And I
remember
love
you
and
telling
respect
me
it.
that.
sword cross guarantee.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So now mine.
Yay.
Like we already mentioned, reverse harem is not a fanfic term to the point where I tried to use it as a tag on AO3 as I usually do. And there are only about 1,500 fics under reverse
okay.
harem, and it's not an official quote unquote popular tag.
Okay.
So AO3, if you're an author, you can do full on sentences as a tag on your
Yes.
fic. You can do whatever the hell you want. But then there are certain tags that are considered popular, which are like, you know, knife play was it's something that has been used enough and is known enough that the web people have gone, okay, this is an actual tag.
Yeah.
Reverse harem is not yet one of those.
Interesting.
And that's because, like I said, because of the tagging system and the way it works in AO3, the pairings are the pairings. There's there doesn't need to be a separate word for this. You'll get it when you're looking at the synopsis.
Yeah.
So what I did look under was polyamory, and then I also looked under OT4 and OT5.
What is OT?
So do you know what OTP means?
Yeah.
One true pairing.
One true pairing. So
OT4.
an OT4.
One true
Yeah.
foursome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And an OT5, one
okay.
true
Sorry, I
foursome,
should've let you done that.
OT3.
No, yeah, that's actually really clever.
I got
like
excited.
OT3 is
I
one
got
true
there as well.
triad.
I got there as well.
So it started as kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but
Yeah.
now people are actually tagging their fics of like,
But I
this is
think
my one
that's-
true foursome.
I was gonna say, I think that's a great way of doing it, because otherwise, if it was like male with female with male, that to me more implies like a sex scene as opposed to like these are people
Yeah.
that I
Then
want
a
in a
relationship.
Yeah,
I love
this is a
that.
ship. So that's kind of what I looked at. And the other thing is, you can also just look under, it's just multi is a tag as
Okay.
well. So the oldest fic tagged polyamory is, so AO3 has only been around since like mid 2000s, but you can backdate fics. So people that wrote fics in the 90s have published them on AO3.
Put them up. Oh, yeah.
So the oldest one is backdated to 1996.
Oh my god.
And I grabbed this fact purely because, Sean, it is a Lord of the Rings / D&D original characters
Oh my god.
poly story.
Oh wow.
For the listeners, I am a huge D&D nerd.
So I will add it to our link tree.
Please do.
Because I just thought that was the best thing.
That's so funny. I love that.
Yes, and then the second oldest, and this was also the oldest on several other adjacent tags, is Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
I could see that.
February 1999, called An Unlikely Threesome by Dinobot 47.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, so that was just some fun facts.
Love it.
But then under these tags, Harry Potter is one of the most popular fandoms
Interesting.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of characters.
Yeah.
That's
There's a
true.
lot of characters. And in fanfic, the solution to most love triangles or friendship groups is, why don't they all just
Why
bang
don't they
each
all
other?
fuck? Yeah.
Why should we have to choose? Let's just all get along.
So would the most common pair there be Hermione, Ron, Harry, and what's
Neville.
his face? Draco?
Draco.
Yes, there's
Okay.
a lot of that.
I was thinking the Weasley family.
Ron, in my experience, is left out of most of the
Aw,
spicier
poor
things.
Ron. So
Ron-
who's the third guy then?
So we'll get into it.
Oh, so you did a Harry Potter one.
I did a Harry Potter one.
okay.
Because really, Harry Potter is the fandom as well in which I've read the most of these types of fics.
For sure.
But it was a real struggle for me to pick one because I started going back through my backlog. So I was like, I love a multi-pairing. But most of mine were either triads or it was all guys or two ladies and one guy. Like, I was too diverse for this fucking prompt. I found instead this. So a little background on Harry Potter on AO3. There are 388,014 Harry Potter fanfics. That was
not
when I
surprise
checked
me.
last night. There are
Yeah.
probably more.
I was gonna say I feel like there should be more
Same.
for some reason.
This is just AO3.
Oh yeah.
That's a good
Probably if we look at fanfiction.net, there would be even more because that when the Harry Potter books were popular, fanfiction.net
That was the big one.
was the
That
place.
was the
Yeah.
big one. Yeah.
66,592 of those fics are explicit, meaning there's an explicit scene, usually a sex scene. The most common pairings are Draco and Harry, Sirius Black and Remus Lupin, and then Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy.
Oh my God.
Hermione and Draco is
That's
like
a classic.
Oh,
Hermione.
Yeah. Hermione.
Can we do this? Who do you want to be the reverse
third?
harem? The fourth, you should say.
Oh, the fourth, yeah.
Who do you want the reverse harem to be in the Harry Potter world? And then I'll...
Well, the characters that you put together at the beginning, I will not say were right or wrong.
For sure. Because
Let's just do our predictions.
Yes.
You've said that Ron typically gets left out, so I'm gonna nix him.
But you can. But this is like your what you would want to hear.
Oh, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if I'd want to put Ron in either because
No,
I feel
that's
like
fair.
he's like, but
He's too pure.
He's
so
pretty
pure.
He's too
vanilla.
precious.
But honestly, maybe they. You know what? I'm gonna stick with it because I feel like that does provide the variety a little bit of like. But Harry and Ron are so similar in energy. You know what I mean? I don't know. You go first. I think.
Now that you said the top ones, I think it's going to be the Marauders and Lily. Marauders.
There are a lot of those.
Yeah,
the
I feel
Marauders
like
and Lily.
that is such a that's an easy reverse harem setup.
That is a classic one.
I wouldn't have even thought of that. I love that.
I'm
No.
a big old serious black gal though.
And it is a common fandom headcanon that Sirius Black and Lupin absolutely were together in high
Oh
school.
yes. Oh yes.
Or beyond.
But yeah, you know what? I'll just stick with the three because like Hermione, Ron,
The
Harry,
main
and
three.
Draco just feel like an easy
main four,
get.
yeah.
An easy one.
I don't know if it'd be the best, but it's an easy get.
No, that's fair. So I will get into it in a minute, but I do want to go over the two because there are a lot. There are a lot of these types of fics, and they fall into, in my experience, two kind of more common tropes.
Okay.
The first being, and this is also, I think, very common if you read any like Doctor Who or more sci-fi things, sex pollen. Or like a potion went wrong and we were all in this room and now we're horny. Or we were in herbology class and somebody opened this flower
And now we all can't
and
stop
now
it.
we all have to bang.
Yeah. That
So
absolutely is true.
that is pretty common, I would say, for like a one shot, like let's write several hundred words of smut and get the fuck out of here. For the ones that are multi-chapter stories, the more common one is a marriage law trope.
What does that mean?
So, a lot of the Harry Potter fanfics that I like to read explore what happens after the war.
Okay.
So in J.K. Rowling's books, like the war ends, a lot of people died.
Sure do.
A lot of people are very traumatized and we don't know anything. We just jump 13 years into the future and everything's fine. So a lot of fics are like, okay, well, so a lot of these fics, the marriage law trope is, what if the magical population was so diminished by the war that the ministry puts a law in place that you have to get married, you have to have kids in
To,
order
repopulate.
to create more magical life because we lost so many people during the war.
Interesting.
And so there's a lot of them. That makes complete sense, right? Like the government would need to mandate things about people's bodies because they get desperate, right?
That's a fantasy
I
world
can't picture
thing.
that
I
happening.
have no idea what it's like. So the one that I read was a marriage law trope.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's called You Can Never Trust Paperwork by Perpetual
Okay.
35 chapters published
Wow.
in March of 2022. So it's fairly recent.
Yeah,
one.
that's new.
86,336 words.
Wow.
The pairing is Hermione Granger, Draco Malfoy, Sirius Black,
That was who I thought about.
Remus Lupin, Theodore Nott.
Remind me who Theodore Nott is.
Theodore Nott is another character in Harry Potter. He is a Slytherin. He is in like the Draco Malfoy pod. He is a character that is typically used in the fandom because not a lot was written about him.
That makes sense.
So
you can make your own
You
thing.
can kind of DIY Theodore Nott.
Gotcha.
But there are several like fandom headcanons about Theodore Nott. He's typically written as one of Draco's best friends.
Yes.
And they are often written as together. In some capacity. So, Sean, do you need any refreshing on any of those characters?
Remind me about Lupin. He's a professor, right?
Remus Lupin, yes. So he is one of, like Emily said, the
He was
Marauders.
the werewolf, right?
He's the werewolf.
Yes. Okay.
As
Him-
prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes.
Yep.
Him, Sirius Black, James Potter, and Peter Pettigrew were
All in school
Hogwarts school chums and best friends.
Yes.
And yeah,
chums.
school chums. And yeah, he was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher who
Yes.
ended up being a werewolf.
Yes.
Spoilers, I guess, if
For
you
Harry
haven't
Potter.
read or seen it,
Also,
fuck off.
get over yourself.
Get over
Go
yourselves.
read Harry Potter.
Also, at this point, J.K. Rowling. So, like, don't buy the book. Get it from the library.
No. I read fan fiction
Support your
in
local
order to,
libraries.
because J.K. Rowling has nothing to do with it. So, marriage law. So Hermione, this is another common trope in post-war fanfic, that Hermione has gotten some kind of job in the Ministry of Magic,
Of course she did.
trying to advocate for Muggleborns and lesser folk,
I love that.
like house elves and that sort of thing. And so we open and she has been, it's all from her perspective. She's been fighting this law for months and months and months and months, and she's heartbroken because it goes through. And she's like, this is going to be violating, da-da-da-da-da. She has to take the compatibility test.
Oh, my God.
And she gets back.
It's a BuzzFeed quiz.
Yeah, it's like it's a magical BuzzFeed quiz that everyone that's single has to take. And she gets back 4 matches.
Oh, my God.
And she is enraged. She feels violated. She feels like there must be some mistake. And so she takes this test and then she gets ushered into this conference room in order to like meet her matches. And she is initially feeling that way, but then she's comforted because everybody else in the room is also not like
Thrilled.
super excited.
Yeah.
Like, not that they don't like her. They're just like, they're all very concerned about her because they all know her in varying, like they either know her from school in Draco's case, or like they were in the Order of the Phoenix together. So then like they went through,
Or they were her teacher.
They went
Yeah.
through war together, all of that. So they're all mainly like, Hermione, are you okay? I know this is a lot. We're going to get through it together, which I really liked.
I enjoy that as well.
And so they all decide that they are just going to all move into 12 Grimmauld Place because it makes sense. And Draco's like, I'm living with my parents in Malfoy Manor. I don't want to like be banging each other under their roof. Theo's like, my family's super racist. We can't move in there.
Oh my
like,
God. I love how quickly they were like, well, I guess we got to get a house.
Yeah.
we all got to be together to do this.
So Sirius offers up his family home, and they all move in.
Oh my God.
And Hermione, being Hermione, sits everyone down in the living room and is like, we need to talk about the logistics of this.
Yeah.
So they have a conversation about the logistics of it. And it's mainly just about her, like, them being like, we're not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. If you need us to, like, fight the Ministry to get an extension. Because basically, like, there's rules behind this. So they have to
Procreate.
They have to
basically.
procreate.
Yeah.
They have to have a baby within a certain amount of time.
Wow.
There's also other caveats. So like she has to like sleep next to at least one of them, or else she will
my
not be able to
God.
sleep. And they cannot be apart from each other for more than 9 hours, or
That
else
just-
they will be in pain.
So, but with the baby thing, because no one else got 4 matches, I assume this is like
Yeah. So they give her 6 months extra to have the
to
baby.
have all the. To
not
have
all
one,
the babies, one baby.
She only needs to have one baby, or does she have to have 4 separate babies?
So in order, she has to have at least one baby by, I think, 2 years in order to be within compliance. If they want to get divorced, they have to have had at least 2 babies
Oh my God.
between them.
Some of this kind of reads to me like a really extreme dating show where it's like you have to sleep next to each other.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to sleep, and you can only be
Yes.
apart for this much.
It's married at first sight.
Exactly.
It's very, yes. And
Oh
so,
my God.
and it's a magical bond. And so it's literally like, it's a spell
You'll be in
cast on
pain.
them, and they will literally be in pain if they're away from each other. And so another very common Harry Potter fanfic trope is that Ron is absolutely incapable of understanding or being okay with anything.
He's a dope.
He's an angry dope, and he proposed to Hermione when all this happened because engaged or married people didn't have to get paired off, and she refused him.
Why?
And then because she just didn't think they would be a good match. She was like,
okay.
we've become too different, and I just am not attracted to you, and I don't think it's going to work. And so she turned him down and decided to take your chances. And then he finds out. He finds out, and he calls her a slut and gets mad at her.
Ron.
And leaks.
How dare you.
And she's trying to keep the situation on the down low because she's embarrassed by it, and he leaks it to Rita Skeeter, and it's in the Daily
Oh,
Prophet.
that's never gonna be good.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I was on the side for a second where I was like, if you were actively fighting this law, why would you not marry your best friend?
Yeah.
But I guess you also have to procreate. That's the
You
whole
have to
thing.
procreate.
But it's like, you'd at least be like, yeah, I've spent all my time with you anyway. I can sleep next to you. We'll pump out a baby or two, and then we'll be done. So the fact that she was like, no, let me take my chances on an arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Well, because also then the story wouldn't have been written.
No, it's
Right,
fair.
there's that.
But I think that like, you know, in like the suspension of disbelief, that's
yeah.
the one where I'm like, no,
Oh, I know.
will.
I
Yeah.
can't do it
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
But now that he's called her a slut, fuck that.
He
Go
calls
on.
her a slut. He grabs her arm hard enough that it'll bruise.
To make bruises.
And
Oh,
yes.
it's one of my favorite tropes in this.
All the gentlemen see it and they get very upset.
Who did this to you?
Who did this to you?
Oh my god.
How dare he? They all get very mad.
Yeah.
And throughout this, and I'm gonna do what you did, Emily. I'm not gonna go all the way to the ending because I want people to actually read this. But throughout the story, Ron pops up to be an asshole, and everyone gets mad at him, and then he leaves because he's just the entire time he's like, well, she's just being a whore, and they're like,
the fuck?
she had no choice, you dick. Like,
Seriously.
yeah, there's a point where, and Ginny obviously is Hermione's best friend, and she gets to be the supportive best friend and be like, yeah, he's my brother, but he's being an asshole, so
Correct.
go ahead and
So
kick him
fuck
out of
him.
my house.
Yeah.
So essentially they kind of start to get to know each other. They're all living together. That's the other thing is it's a mandatory 1 month honeymoon after they get married. So none of them are allowed to work. They all have to just be in this house together.
Living in the house together.
But the honeymoon is just staying in
So-
the house.
staying in the
so
house
now
together.
it's Married at First Sight plus Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're all just in
Don't
this
leave the
house.
house. You can't work.
Yeah,
Oh my
Hermione
God.
discovers that Draco and Theo were actually like fully dating for many, many years.
I love that.
And so they were actually pretty excited because they're like, well, at least we can be together also.
Aw, I love that.
And so they're just kind of like, yeah, like we're gonna cuddle. And if you would like to come cuddle also,
Yeah.
we're already doing this. And then she also discovers that Remus and Sirius
We're dating.
used to
dating.
fool around in high school. And I think Sirius says something along the lines of like, yeah, it probably won't take long for Remus and I to fall back into old habits. It's fine. So they just kind of very slowly come into this like friendship.
Yeah.
And then the author did this wonderful thing because you can leave notes at the beginning of every chapter. And she goes, I just need you all to know that there's been a lot of plot these last 6 chapters, but I wrote this mainly so I could write sex scenes.
Yes.
And that's about
And
to start.
here it comes.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
ready.
yeah, yeah.
And so the first sex scene comes because Remus is a werewolf, by the way, and he has to transform into a werewolf. And so usually when that happens, he locks himself in a room and
remember that,
handles
yeah.
his business and then comes back out. Well, that takes longer than 9 hours. So Hermione is like in the evening one day, like struck with horrible cramping pain
Oh
throughout
my
her
God.
entire body. And everyone's like, oh my God, like what's going on? And she's like, oh, I know what's happening. Get me to Remus. And so it's all very traumatic. And they like, as soon as they like hold hands, it clears up and they're okay. But then they all like sleep in the same bed together because everyone's super worried. And then they wake up the next morning and her and Draco have morning sex and everybody else watches.
Okay.
And that is our first sex scene.
Okay.
It's like her on top and everyone else like being like,
Fun.
okay.
That's nice. That's nice.
Nice.
And that right there is the beginning, the
Okay.
beginning of the end. I counted, there are 19
Nice.
sex scenes.
Holy shit.
I am not gonna synopsize all of
No,
them.
no, no.
I have my faves, and I was gonna ask Sean
Okay.
which of these she thinks is funnest.
Okay, go ahead.
So Draco and Hermione have morning sex while everyone watches. Great, classic. So there's a thing with Remus and Hermione where they realize that she's gonna need to be around him at some point during the transformation. The safest way to do that is if he marks her, because then his werewolf self will know that she is safe.
Oh, okay.
It's like a mating
Gotcha.
mark. And so he does that, and that becomes a thing of like him licking the mark and her touching the mark, and she thinks it's very hot. And it also becomes a thing where people like out in the streets who are fucking racist against werewolves are like, how dare you
Oh my
have
God.
that on your neck, you fucking whore. So that's a whole thing. Draco and Hermione, she reads a story aloud in the library and he eats her out and he stops if she stops reading. And she has to keep reading no matter what.
Okay.
Fun one.
Yeah. That is
Chapters, another note that I wrote down, chapters 13 through 18 are completely nothing but smut sex scenes. And the author very gleefully like counts this down in the notes and is just so excited about it. Theo eats her out, and then she has sex with Draco in the shower while Theo and Draco make out.
I like that.
Very cute. She and Sirius have sex, and he ties her up. And then they come downstairs, and the other 3 are having sex. in the kitchen, and she's very happy for them. And she has a moment where she's like standing in the door. She's like, they all like each other. They're all having a really good time, and I'm really happy about that.
Can I just say that you looked so gleeful when you said that? Like, they're doing this. And then the other three are having sex. Like,
They're all just having a love.
It was adorable.
It's a real thing in polyamory. It's called compersion. And it's the feeling of happiness that you have when your partner is happy in a relationship that is not the two of you,
Gotcha,
but
gotcha,
with somebody else.
Okay.
And I feel that in fanfic land.
I love that.
And then there are just lots and lots of scenes like that where it's like all five of them taking turns doing various things to each other for an entire chapter.
Wow.
So I did kind of avoid, Emilie, your thought process of like, isn't she getting sore?
Yes.
Because she was not the main person
Yeah.
for
They were
every
all-
single
It wasn't
guy every
always-
single
yes,
time.
It wasn't always about her.
Yeah. So Sean, did any of those fun for you?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
I think my favorite is the one where she's reading and he's eating her out, just because like it's solely focused on her pleasure, which I appreciate, and also like I love a challenge. I love a challenge.
There actually is a series of YouTube videos. It might not be up, but it was posted like in 2013 or something, called, I want to say, Hysterical Literature. And it's essentially porn stars reading like classic literature. You can't see anything.
Okay.
But somebody has a vibrator
Oh my God.
on them the entire time.
This was on YouTube?
It was on YouTube.
Holy shit.
And it was just them trying to
keep
hold on as
reading.
long as they could and keep reading.
My God.
But to YouTube's terms of service, it's just a lady reading a book
And getting increasingly
and
happy.
getting increasingly excited about the book.
My mind is blown.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. I'll send
That's
you a
great.
link.
But yeah, I think that sex scene has like the most unique personality to it
Yes.
in terms of like
Yeah.
And it's very Draco and Hermione because there's a lot of fanfics where they like have hate sex in the
I was
library.
say there's a power dynamic which I feel like is very them.
Yes. And so there's not a lot more story.
They just keep going.
They just keep going. They become closer and closer. She has several moments where she realizes how lucky she is to have them in her life, and it just deepens her appreciation of each of them individually.
I love that so much.
Yeah, and then there becomes there is a little bit of a mystery because after the honeymoon, when they're like allowed to leave the house, she goes back to work and she sees on the Daily Prophet that two separate Muggleborns who are paired with pureblood wizards were murdered. And she's like, I feel like this has something to do with the marriage law. And for those who might not be as deep in the Harry Potter lore as I am, the purebloods were basically Voldemort's people, and they were the quote unquote like original family of wizards, and they're all about keeping the bloodlines pure. And
Like,
so there's
only coming from wizarding
only coming from
families.
wizarding and not mixing with muggles who are all muggles being people who do not come
Non-magic.
from
Magic.
who have a magic ability. And so Hermione suspects that this has something to do with the inherent racism of the wizarding world, and her and her husbands decide to try to solve this mystery.
Yay. I love a good
So-
like couples activity, you know?
Yes, and all of her husbands are like, "Yup, whatever you need, babe, let's do this." So it's very cute. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the basic. It's just a very fun, very smutty fic. Some other tropes that I wanted to go over that are very common in Harry Potter smut fics. Sirius calling her kitten. That's a thing that for some reason happens in a lot of Sirius Black Hermione Granger fics.
Emily and I just like both like pulled our heads back.
Yeah, that's odd.
I don't know how I don't
Do
know.
you think it's because she in book 2?
Oh,
Because
where
she
she
turns
becomes the
into-
cat.
she
But why
becomes
would he
cat.
know that?
I mean, Harry could just find it funny.
Also,
Yeah.
wait, I have two. Well, you finish this, and then I have two questions about your fic.
No, ask the questions.
One, is Harry in this at all?
Harry is in it as the supportive best friend and husband of Ginny.
Okay, so
he
him and
basi-
Ginny do get married.
Well, and him and Draco work together. They're both Aurors. And so Harry pops in every once in a while to be like, Ron, you're being a dick.
Okay.
And,
Good
and
for Harry.
physically remove him from the
love
situation.
that.
But otherwise, he's not really there.
And then 2, during the scene in the library, is she reading and he's following instructions, or is she just reading
She's just
random
reading.
story?
She's just reading a random story.
Because I've read one where the girl is reading. It's not a fanfic. It was a book.
Yeah.
Where she's reading a smutty book and he's doing
what
he's acting out.
No, she's like reading a history book, and he's like, "You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going.
I'll stop if you
I'm gonna stop
I
if you
love
stop.
that.
Okay.
See, I enjoyed that scene.
Yeah. So very important questions. Thank you for asking them.
You're welcome.
The other couple that we already went through, like Theo is kind of a blank slate, but still a very fun extra character. Rom being a spiteful child. Lupin's werewolfness needing some kind of marking or mating thing very commonly comes up. And then just Ginny being a very badass best friend who has absolutely no patience for her brother and his fuckery.
Love it.
Yes.
Which we love.
Into it.
So yeah, I would call this a pretty classic multi-pairing Harry Potter fic. It hits a lot of the good tropes. I really enjoyed that the men formed their own relationships.
I like that too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and like that they got together and that the author was not. I feel like sometimes the when I've read these, it's the author is almost afraid to describe other pairings that isn't just the woman and the man.
Yeah.
They'll kind of gloss over it, and she didn't in this, and I really appreciated and liked that. I had fun with it, and I tend to get a little bored, and I'm like, there's so many pairings of it. Like they could be doing so many things right now.
There's a limited number of things you can do.
Yeah. Like, tell me about it. Like, don't just pretend that they're seeing each other naked fairly regularly. If there's any bisexuality in there, it's gonna come out.
It's gonna pop out.
Yeah. And then I also honestly really enjoyed the mystery of it, and that the author was not trying to hide the fact that she was purely doing it to
For
write
the
smut.
yeah.
And she also happened to put some plot in there, but she was basically like, I'm having such a good time, you guys. Thank you so much. And I love a good author's note at each chapter. Would I read it again? Probably not. Was it super fun? Absolutely, had a great time.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sean?
I think it was more fun than I was expecting because, again, as I've mentioned, I have not read all the Harry Potter books. So, so my knowledge of the lore and like the fanfic is like pretty limited. Like, I know some of the pairings, I've read some of them, but it's like the big players.
Right.
And so with all those pairings, I was like imagining them all in a house together, and I was like, I feel like they're just going to avoid each other and like not talk. So the fact that they brought in like the other pairings and like they were able to form relationships, I think made it like really sweet. And it seems like very fun smut.
Yeah, and there was a lot of the rule that required them to like sleep in the same bed.
So funny.
There were so many like scenes that were just like all of them cuddling in bed and talking.
Oh my god.
It's very cute.
That's just so, I mean, yeah, you'd have to have them get along in some respect.
Yeah, they're stuck in a house together by design.
Oh my god, that's so funny. But no, I enjoyed it way more than I thought. Like once you were like, oh, they were dating and they were dating, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I like that. Made me happy actually.
Yeah, it was more Hermione was coming into already
established.
Yeah. They were like, welcome to our
She was
thing.
the unicorn.
we're gonna be
to two
fucking,
different things.
and they're gonna be fucking. You can join if you want.
And then we're all gonna do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're just gonna take a bath together.
I love it.
Yeah.
That was Reverse Harems.
That's Reverse
Thank you, guys.
Sean.
How are you feeling about this?
Final thoughts?
Again, just knowing nothing about it going in, I'm like, okay, this is something that I could look into. Like, I think that it's a really cool idea, and I'm curious if my response would be what my first reaction was, which was like, no, I'd want to pick one. I think between the two, I would probably read the banned one more readily, like, because the story seems more intriguing to me, and I'm curious if I could separate that. So I think I might read that and see how it goes.
I'm honestly amazed, given the fact that you've read any One Direction fanfic, that never came up.
I'm sure it is in there. It just never came across my plate.
Yeah.
Most of it was, it would be one member of the band, usually Harry, needed a girlfriend for publicity.
Right.
And they start as like enemies to lovers.
Fake dating.
Yes.
I love a fake dating.
And then that's actually what I wrote down, just in case we want to go into that. And then, they fall in love. So.
Yeah, I don't read a lot of Rockstar stuff, but this was a fun one. I liked it, and I didn't have the full-on thing of I want to pick someone. But with yours, I did want her to pick Draco, but mostly because but now that we've talked about it, that she's older, that it's not super weird age gap, I feel better about that. But
Once you established after the war, I was like, got it.
Yep.
you keep saying after the war, and I keep in my head singing after the war.
I went back to New York. After the war, I went back to Copyright. Sorry.
Copyright. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
If it's less than 30 seconds, we're fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I totally just made that up.
No, I think it is. I think that's true.
I think as long as we're not a racist, homophobic church in Texas, I think we're okay.
So, Sean. Oh, wait. First of all, I do want to ask this again. Any Ted Lasso updates?
Oh, no.
Are we thinking it's...
I think it's dead.
That's so sad.
I think I think it's officially
okay.
dead.
Then I'm not going to ask unless
if
something
it
pops up.
Present an update if you have
I just
one.
get so every time I see it, I go, I should ask about that.
I know.
Yeah.
If it happens, I will bring it up.
Okay. Sean, what are you reading?
So, I have finished Devil in the Dark Sea, which we'll talk about after we're done recording. I know. I was very excited. And
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And I have started Daniel Sloss's book.
Oh, so good.
Which the title is so long. It's like Everyone You Hate.
Everyone You Hate is going to die, and other comforting thoughts.
Yeah. So I've just started that one, so I'm not very far into it, but it's already hilarious. I love Daniel Sloss. He's a Scottish comedian. If you haven't heard of him, highly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a memoir or is it like a...
No, it's just like thoughts on love and life and all this stuff. And the whole forward is him talking about his Jigsaw special, which is the second one. But yeah, that's what I'm reading. Emilie, what are you reading?
So last time I saw you guys, I said I was going to start The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And then I didn't because I started doing a reread of ACOTAR.
Nice! Wait, where are you in it?
I just started the first one.
Okay. I don't think I'd ever reread the first. I think I would just skip to the second.
Yeah, I'm usually because as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, this is like
Fucking
so
Farrah.
annoyed. Fucking Farrah, and like fucking Tamlin, but I'm kind of like I want to be like, I'm like a purist. Like I gotta get through it to get to the second and the third.
I love that
and then
attitude.
Finally to the fourth. But
that's patience.
And then after that, but I keep reading it, and then I keep thinking like, ooh, I should reread Crescent City too. So, which one of you has to take it home because I need you guys to start.
I'll take it home.
I need you to. It's gonna take you a long time.
That's
it's a thick
fine.
book.
I'll have another update for the podcast.
Yes. So it's
Maybe
so
at
good.
the end of the season.
Yeah.
Jess, what are you reading right now?
I'm pulling it up because I couldn't remember the title of it, but it comes direct from my therapist, Helen.
Yes.
Hi,
love
Helen.
that. Hi, Helen.
Polysecure, Attachment, Trauma, and Consensual Non-Monogamy by Jessica Fern.
That sounds awesome.
So it is a book all about polyamory and just consensual non-monogamy and how to navigate it given your attachment style
That
and
is so
your
cool.
partners.
Yeah.
And your traumas, because if as you can probably imagine, when you're in a relationship with one person, that can bring up
Trauma.
A lot
all
of
your
shit.
baggage.
As
and
it
so,
should. As
yep.
any good relationship should.
And so then when you try to be in relationships with more than one person romantically, it can cause even more of the stuff to come up. So it's basically a modern look at that and ways to kind of navigate it and think about it for yourself.
love that.
Straight from Helen.
Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Helen.
God bless.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Sean, was there something from this episode or from your list from previous episodes that you want to explore, that you want us to explore for the next week?
It's hard because again, I didn't get too many things in this one. I honestly was just very engaged in the stories,
No,
so
you're
I didn't
fine.
take too many notes.
We covered a lot too.
We did.
Like mine was
hearing it,
trying
but
to-
it was a good story. So the ones that I did write down were actually married and rock star romances from this week.
What do you mean actually married?
When you find out that someone's actually married and they're not, you're dating them and they're actually married. Again, I don't know if that'd be a thing. I just wrote it down. And then but I was thinking about, because it came up again today, about maybe going back to fake dating.
I could do that.
I do
Yeah.
love fake
I could
dating.
do
I
that.
love a fake dating.
I could do that, yeah. And we could there could be an actually married
Yeah.
No, it's
in there
It's
organically.
absolutely fine if you find one. But again, I just wrote that down because that came up with Rich, and I was like, oh, maybe that's more of a thing.
You mean Jericho?
I'm so sorry, Jericho. And but yeah,
Jericho.
fake dating kind of came up again in this one with the rock star romances and all of that. So I think we'll go with fake dating.
Okay.
So fake dating is next episode.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Please remember to like our podcast, like us on all the social media.
It's Femmes Reading Filth on Instagram and TikTok.
If you have anything to say to us, too bad. I don't know. You
nice.
don't talk
Yeah,
to us.
yeah, you can DM us
can
on
slide
Instagram.
into our
You can
DMs.
slide in and see if we respond, but
Yeah.
no promises.
No promises.
Because we are so popular.
They
and
are, guys.
So many people listen to us, and we're getting so many DMs all the time.
We have a lot of fans
I just
and
don't
followers.
know. I can't keep up with all
They're
the
already
messages.
planning their tour, guys.
I know. So, if you want to slide in there, we'll do our very best.
Yeah, people, you know, like at rock shows, like girls will throw their panties on stage. People have been.
What are they throwing at you?
Yeah.
They're sending me gifts of panties.
I haven't gotten any panties.
Oh, you know what? I've been looking at them first, and then I was like, Jessica doesn't want to see these.
I'll confess, Emily, I've been the one sending them, so I'll
Damn
start
it.
sending them some to you. too.
Thank
Okay.
you, Sean.
I'm sorry.
I was doing it so you didn't have to.
You don't know me at all.
I don't know. You clearly. Good old brown eyes over here.
Thanks, everybody. We'll
Thank you.
see you next time.
Bye.
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 Feud. Every everything is lewd. I could tell you things about Peter Pan and the Wizard of Oz. There's a dirty old man.